I know how overwhelming planning a trip to a Greek island can be. So today we're going to do that process together. I have picked an island that I haven't really done much research on, and we're going to look at what there is to do, where to stay, how we get there, and then we're going to see if we can go to another island from there. I have picked two islands that I am not so familiar with, and I'm going to research on things to do on these two islands. And what I'm hoping is that I can go from one island to another. And right off the bat, I've spelled the name of the island wrong because I can never remember how to spell many of the island's names. So that's part of the issue for, I think, for some people as well. And a lot of times there are multiple places named the same thing. So that can be very confusing. So we're going to start off here, best things to do in Falangandros. And this site I know fairly well. They're pretty good about having a good overview. It's not very detailed, but at least gives you an idea of what to do. Now, this is very cool. Looks like there's a really great view from a church in Hora. So right off the bat, looks really cool. All right. I don't know if a stroll in Hora is like a thing to do necessarily, but we'll see. They have a Castro. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like the Castro in Sikinos. Okay, I'm not loving this site, so let's go look at another one and see. A couple of things I want to mention about looking at blogs, because I have one, so these are things that I know about. Instead of looking at things like TripAdvisor or Reddit, hopefully these people have been to a place more than once before they write these, or they spent a significant amount of time in the island. They didn't just go for 2 days and then they left, but it's hard to tell sometimes. And you also aren't sure sometimes whether or not these people have been there recently. So this does say January 11th, 2024. However, you can change the date of your publishing on an article. So that's just something to keep in mind. When I update mine, it's because I've been there recently, or I know something has changed, like a hotel or a restaurant I have recommended has closed. And now we're here in things to do. Again, Hora, which looks like it's up on the hill. Like this obviously isn't right on the sea. So it looks like that if you do stay in Hora, you are not going to just jump off the ferry and go there. That doesn't mean it's a bad place to stay. It just means that it's not as convenient to get to. It looks very pretty. There's another beautiful village to see. And that is right there on the sea. That might be the ferry port. It's a pretty small island. So that may all there is. I don't know. I haven't looked yet. There's churches, another beautiful village. Wow, look at that beach. That's sign me up. I'm ready to go spend a week just on that beach. I'm very much in I want to go to an island with a beach where there are not a lot of people. I'd like to just go and not see anyone for a while. Looks like there's some hiking and a lighthouse. Now, I don't know. This looks like there's plenty of things to do. Not a lot if you're looking for a lot of nightlife, or if you're looking for tons and tons of things to do. So that's one thing that you want to look at when you're looking at some of these things to do. You can kind of get a feel for an island based on these to say, hey, there isn't a lot to do on this island, and I'm okay with that. Here's another blogger that's written about Folengadros. I'm going to skip them and go to the culture trip, even though I don't always love what they have to say, because I sometimes find that their things are out of date. Sometimes they tend to mention things that are a little less well known. Okay, see, here's a wine bar they're mentioning. Now, what I would say is that you need to look and see when these were written. And then if you're dead set, this is the thing that's making me want to go, then I need to go and look and see if this place is still open. Oh, they have a scuba dive center, which is interesting because I don't see a lot of those here in Greece. A lighthouse is mentioned again. Another beach recommendation. There's a folklore museum. No one mentioned that before. For me, this is a place that I would want to go. I would say that depending on what the island looks like when I get to go look at a map, in terms of when I pick something to stay, I need to know whether or not there's going to be transportation or if I'm gonna have to rent a car. Now, what I'm gonna do is go look at places to stay. One of those reasons is that if I don't like the places to stay, or if there's something not in my budget, then there's no point in looking at the ferries first, because if I can't afford to stay there or there isn't a hotel available that I like in the place that I like, then there's no point in looking at the ferries. Oh, good. It brought it right up for me, so I don't have to like worry about how to spell it. I'm gonna look in the summer because that's when most people are coming. I'm gonna look on like a Thursday, and it's a pretty small island, so you probably only need like 3 or 4 days there. So I'm gonna leave, go on Thursday, stay 3 nights. Let's see. I'm not sure. This is a couple of things that I do when I'm looking at the hotels on an island. So I obviously they bring up a bunch of stuff, and these are ranked sometimes depending on like whose affiliate link you clicked first. If you're in your booking and it's like you've looked at booking before, then it may bring up stuff based on your past searches. I'm in incognito mode now, so it doesn't know who I am. Look at that. There's only 33 properties on booking.com. So there are not a lot to choose from. So this is one of those islands that I have, mentioned before that if you don't book early, that you may not have a place to stay. So what I do is I go then look at the map. And this is going to tell you a couple of things. First thing is it's going to show you that this is where the ferry comes into. So the photo we saw that had the beautiful monastery up on the hill is here. And this is where the ferry comes into. I prefer to usually stay either where the ferry comes in or where there is a nice beach. And a lot of times, those aren't in the same place. Sometimes they are. It just depends on the island. Here, it doesn't look like there are a lot of options in general. So I'm going to look here at the ferry port because it's going to make this easier. And hopefully there's a bus that goes from this village to this village. We'll see. So then I zoom in. And another thing I like to do is I like to click and look at the topographical map. I mean, the satellite view, sorry, because I don't want to walk up 1,000 steps to get to my hotel room. Okay, I'm just going to tell you now, this island is even smaller than I realized. I thought this island had more stuff going on. But like I said, I haven't done a lot of research. So that's partly the reason that I picked this, because I want to have the same experience that you guys have when you're booking them, to be like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy and I decided I don't want to stay here, or this is amazing and this is the perfect island for me. Okay, so that picture that we saw earlier of that tiny little dock is where the ferries come into. So this is going to be interesting to see. Okay, it is very expensive. $859 for 3 nights at this place. Okay, we're not staying there. Who can afford 16? I mean, some people can, but for 3 nights, it seems a bit excessive. But you have to remember it's summer in the Greek islands and it's popular. 646, a little better. 273. It has good reviews. So I'm like, why is it 273? And these are different. I don't know. Let's see. 724. And maybe 452. So maybe these places that are already unavailable, the few that are here that are unavailable, maybe it's because these are the cheap places and they've already been booked. I am going to go look at this Vardia Bay Studios to see if I can figure out why it's so expensive. Well, it has a beautiful view. Okay, I can tell you part of the reason is based on this photo, which every time I hover over it, you can't see, but look here. This is right by the ferry port. Like literally, that's the ferry and here's the hotel. So I don't know if it's worth spending that much more to be that close to the ferry on this small of an island, but if it was cheaper, this is the place I would pick because I love being by the ferry. I love watching people come and go, but I'm not paying 600 whatever it is. Bathroom's okay. Some of the bathrooms are okay. Again, it's the view. A lot of it is the amazing view and the location. Wow. But you're not going to get that every night. You might get that once when you're there. But okay, a lot of it is the location. This is intriguing though. You know how I was saying I'd like to go look at the map and see if it's up a hill, and sometimes that doesn't show you that, but here you can see that it kind of is. Not that it's a big deal for most people, but if you're in any way like issues with walking, you're gonna have to walk up here, walk up this somehow, and here and down here. Now, they may have someone that can come and help you with your luggage, but sometimes when they're this close to the ferry port, they don't do that. But let's go look at the rooms. Okay, so the 646 is a superior studio with a sea view. Again, you're getting that great view. All right. The rooms are not like this high-end price. They're nice, but they're not like a boutique hotel like look. Oh, this is interesting. What I didn't see before is this has a kitchenette, which if you're coming for a longer period of time, that's really nice. For 3 days, I don't know if you really care. It looks like all the rooms at this level look pretty much the same. They just have like different headboards and different like decorations. It's kind of a mishmash, which makes the price even a little bit more weird. Okay, what are your other options? Deluxe studio with sea view. Okay. I can't really see the difference between the two. Maybe they're slightly bigger. It says that there's a sofa bed. Yes, there was like a bed here. It's probably like a single bed. So now I'm gonna look at the one that was hold on, let me go check. 273. Okay, pretty similar location. Obviously not right in the ferry port, but close by. Let's see. Yeah, so this is ferries here. It looks like it's a little outdated, but it's clean. That's what everybody's saying. Like it's simple but clean. I mean, these are a little bit newer than some of them. It just feels kind of old. Um, it's a small hotel. Again, usually I find that the service in these smaller hotels is really amazing. And as long as it's clean and there's air conditioning, I personally, that's all I really care about. So let's go look at the actual room. It's a nice view. Got a covered balcony here, which is a big deal for me. Decent bathroom. Again, a little bit dated, but otherwise it's clean. This would still be the place I pick. Now, this does not include breakfast, but that's okay. Usually you can find breakfast on a Greek island, not a big deal. What I want to do now is go look and see if the prices in Hora are any different because they're further away from the ferry. So there's one place that's sort of on the edge of town, 245. But this place is 1,000. What I love is this place is over $1,000 for the 3 nights, and it's only got a 7.0 rating. So that's a mystery. This is 675. 607. So the prices are a little bit higher here, but what I'm also noticing is there are a lot of places that are already booked out. And I wonder if that's because these are the cheaper places, and so they've already been booked for the summer. Let's go look and see if we could change the dates and that would affect this in any way. So if we were to change our dates, and usually they will tell you, sometimes it'll give you like a list and say, okay, so here are 2 nights. Let's just look at this just to see prices. It goes down significantly. Wow, that's a huge difference. What was it? 274 for 2 nights, but over here, oh, it didn't tell me. But that tells me that the places that are cheaper are booked out well in advance, and that's part of the reason why. One thing I want to do before we definitely decide that this is the island that we're going to, okay, now we can go look at ferries. This is where we're going to stay. I want to know if I need to book a car for this island. And because I live here, I know that we need to go look at the buses. The buses here, almost no matter where you are always these Ketel or KTEL. I'm never really sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Buses, and they go everywhere, but unfortunately, they're not run by the same company. So you have to go look at each individual island to see what the bus schedule is like. So, okay, and they don't have the bus schedule out for the summer. So this is always an issue is, okay, you go and you look at it, you're like, okay, great, there are buses, but I don't know if this is going to work, if this is going to be the bus schedule in the summer, because if this is the bus schedule in the summer, I can't really go too many places, but it's probably not. Usually what happens on the islands is the summer schedule is more geared towards tourists. In the winter, it's geared towards when the ferry arrives, and ironically, when the kids go to school, because a lot of times these buses are also the school buses. So let's see if we can find the bus schedule for last year, 2023 summer schedule. And let's see. Okay, this says for July 21. Okay, it's not last year's schedule, and it's not the year before schedule, and it is a COVID schedule, but there's still quite a bit of buses. Like, this would make me feel like, especially for a 3-day trip, this would be enough for me to get around the island in the summer without having to rent a car. And on an island like this, renting a car might be limited. Actually, let's go take a look if we can rent a car, like what the prices would be if you can even rent a car. I tend to skip over the sponsored ones. I just want to see, okay, here's the one that's in the port. Let's just go look at that one. I do not get too particular about who I rent from on a Greek island because you don't always have a choice, and like you have to go with what's there, right? I mean, it just is what it is. Sometimes I've rented a car once I've gotten there. Now, not in the summer. I don't recommend that in the summer. Let's see if I can get rid of that video. Oh, wow. They've got a really cool website. So there are car rental places. Let's just go look and see for the dates that we picked, which were July 11th. Oh, no, it's 70 euros a day. Final price is 210. Okay, need to look at the fine print. That's a lot. I'm not spending 200 extra euros to rent a car for 3 days when there's a bus system. Now, here's the tricky part. I've decided that this is the place. Like, this particular hotel is where I'd like to stay. It's 273. It's in my budget, particularly for a Greek summer holiday. So what I now need to do is go look and see at the ferry schedule. So what I recommend is that you go to ferryhopper.com and look to see if there are ferries. And the way that we're going to do this time is to go to Athens, all ports, and then go to Folegandros, and then we said July 11th, I believe. I need to check. I'm making that face because now I can't remember. July 11th. And we're not going to book a return because we're hoping that we can go to another island. 1 ferry a day. All right, well, that's all you need, right? And it's not a terrible time. Like, sometimes they arrive at like 11 o'clock at night, and you're like, okay, well, I've wasted a whole day getting here. This way, you at least have a half a day. I want to go to another island after this. Now, in my mind, I want to go to Danusa. Now, they're not super close to each other, and Danusa is even smaller than Folegandros. So let's see. Now, Ferry Hopper has this really cool thing where you can look at the ferry map and decide where you're going to go. So we'll put in Folegandros, and it'll show us where we can go. Okay, so basically anything that has a price means that there's a ferry that goes there. And yeah, no, Danusa is not one of them. Let's see. No, can't. And you can do it that way too. So not an option. I wasn't sure. And to make this more authentic, I didn't do any research on these places before I started filming this video. I just wanted to come in it as like somebody who's never been to Greece before or has maybe only been to Santorini and Mykonos. So how do I get to these smaller islands? But the cool thing is now we can see where we can go. And a lot of them are places that I have been to before and been to multiple times, so I don't necessarily want to go there. But if you haven't, the good thing is you could go to a larger island. Let's say you could go to Paros, and then that way you know for sure getting back to Athens is a little bit easier because if something happens, they have an airport. Let's pick Sikinos because that's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to go somewhere a little bit further away, but okay, we'll go to the next island over. That's fine. I haven't been there. I've been like to a beach there to go off a boat once, but I didn't go onto the island. It's supposed to be really beautiful. So, oh, we have finally hit a snag. So I have booked the hotel theoretically from July 11th to the 14th. But on the 14th, there is no ferry to Sikinos. Is there one the day before? No. We may not be doing this at all. Ah, there is on Monday. All right. So let's see. That was Sunday. So that's an extra day. So you have a couple of options. You can try to see if you can stay an extra day here. It does look like you could if you wanted to. Let's see how much that changes the price. Okay, not terrible. You probably would have to do this unless you just picked a different island entirely, which you could do. I would probably just stay the extra day. Okay, let's just go with it, and let's now go look at Sikinos and see what we can do as far as a hotel. So this is the one of the things though is that you have to be somewhat flexible when you're booking things because you may not have a choice. So now we know we have to make our hotel reservation for the 15th. I'm assuming that if you're coming on this trip that you're coming for about a week to 10 days. So you arrived here, no, you arrived here, a week is here. So let's say 10 days. So you need to come back to Athens maybe on the 20th is when your flight is out. So maybe you only want to stay in Sikinos till the 18th and then you go back to Athens. That's funny. The hotel in Volongandros is called the same thing. That doesn't seem right. Again, I'm going to go look at the map, but first I'm going to point out to you there are only 13 hotels on Sikinos. Some really obscure islands, it seems like. Okay, no, it is. I thought for maybe there was like a weird thing with the caching and that it was giving me hotels on a different island. Because sometimes when you look at these really small islands that don't have very many hotels, it will give you a hotel that's on another island. So just make sure this is another reason that you want to look at the map. I mean, it's got great reviews, 150 reviews of 9.0, and it's right there. This is probably where the ferry dock. There's not a lot going on here, though. That's one thing we didn't look at is to say, okay, what is there to do? It's nice. Oh, it's a little dated in some parts, but it's nice. It's clean. The owners are really friendly, really great view, everything. Yeah. Let's see. 362, and that was for those nights. Queen bed. Doesn't really include anything. Okay, this is a possibility, but let's go look and see what there is to do on Sikinos. This is an island I've literally done no research on. I'm not sure if I'm spelling that right. Yes. Okay, we're going to skip Greeka because I didn't like what they had to say on the other site. One of the quietest and least visited Greek islands in the Cyclades. Only 260 permanent residents. Wow. Okay. Maybe you want a really quiet holiday. This is where you go. So this is where you would stay. I love this though. Like this to me is, I love this. It's beautiful, beautiful beach, amazing beach. Uh, this is what they suggest for a budget hotel, so that's good. There is a hora, which looks very beautiful. There's a museum, there's some churches, windmills. There's probably not a lot to do in Sikinos. I think there is a winery, if I remember correctly, but this is actually, oh, I have heard of this before. This is a uh, an ancient settlement, and they have like rebuilt it kind of. And obviously, there's been a big ceremony, but I remember it being in the news, and this is an amazing thing to go and see. We know we can get to Sikonos. What's the ferry schedule back to Athens, though? Because you're probably thinking, Tiffany, this is great. Like, how fabulous. You found this great thing. Maybe not. All right, what day did we say that we're coming back? The 18th. There are no ferries from Sikinos on the 18th. All right, what about the 17th? Okay, no, but here's some alternatives. You can go back to Folengandros and then take the ferry. All right, what about if we leave on the 19th? No. So this isn't a great option because you can't go to Athens. So if you needed to go back to Athens, you would have to be super flexible with how you do this. So, like, you would have to go back to Folengandros, wait for several hours, and then take the ferry back to Piraeus, or you go to Santorini, which is always an option. I mean, you could go to Santorini or you could go to Paros and then take a flight if you really if you decided this is the island that you wanted to see. Like, I've decided Sikonos is where I want to go, this is what you would do. You would just have to like understand that it's going to be like taking a flight, and you're going to have to pick, the best option for you. But let's look and see. So let's say Sikonos is out, so we're going to go a little bit bigger. We're going to go from Volongandros to, I think Paros was an option. On what day did I say? Oh, we have to go on the 15th, correct. This is another thing, like, you have to keep all your dates straight. And as you've noticed, I haven't said, okay, let's book, because you don't know yet what you're doing. So you can go from Folengandros to Paros at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm not worried about getting to from Paros back to Athens on the 18th because it's Paros. There are multiple ferries a day, but I'll just show you that so you can see what I'm talking about. So Paros, Athens, most likely Piraeus, but we'll say the 18th, and I'll show you what that looks like. Lots of options. Because we have ultimately decided on Paros, I'm not going to go pick a hotel on Paros. There are tons to choose from. That's more of a thing of picking your budget. So if you decided to go to a bigger island, you probably still go through those same steps, like look and see what there is to do, decide where it is that you want to stay on the island, and then go find a hotel that you can afford. I hope that you guys found this helpful. I am still trying to figure out my summer plans, so I've been doing this a lot lately, and it made me think that this might be helpful for all of you to kind of see what my process is and see if this will help you in any way. So I have linked down in the description box to Ferry Hopper and to my links to hotels, so you can go and take a look if you need to. I also put a link to my website. It's always down there in the description box. And then you can go and look and see from my blog posts of the places that I have been to. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.